Salut la famille! I was browsing the other day on Shein looking for stuff to prepare for a photo shoot that I had, and I saw some horrific things. Stuff like this, and this. And I thought to myself, how come such pictures ended up in one of the biggest e-shopping websites in the world? And with Liquify now becoming more and more popular, with phone apps and Photoshop itself becoming democratized, so more people now have access to those tools than ever before. But unfortunately, not everybody is well equipped to use those tools properly. So I thought, let's do everybody a favor and show you how to do a non-destructive and good liquifying. So like that, you will avoid becoming a meme. So let's go. We're here on Photoshop, and the first thing we made sure of is to blur this lady's face. Obviously, as you can see, this lady doesn't need any liquifying, but I thought this picture is perfect to demonstrate how to do a good liquifying because there are a lot of lines near the body and also some that are crossing the body. And generally, when you do a bad liquifying, those are the things that get crooked, is those lines. Those are the tellings of a bad liquifying, is the lines moving or you see them crooked. So this picture will be perfect to do this demonstration. Before I go and show you my two main techniques to do a good liquify, the best will be to show you how to keep your work non-destructive in Photoshop. For the ones that don't know, non-destructive work means that your work is always there to be adjusted or edited. Unfortunately, Photoshop is not as easy for non-destructive work as Lightroom or Capture One, but there are workarounds and other ways to keep your work non-destructive here. So that's what I will show you first before going to the liquifying part. So let's assume that we are working on Photoshop on this picture and we have a lot of adjustments and we made a lot of things. We don't need to do any adjustments here, but let's do something just for the sake of the demonstration. So for example, let's darken the picture a little bit. Because liquifying cannot be done on an adjustment layer and you need to have a finite image, most people what they do before liquifying is either they flatten the picture or they merge the layers, so like that it's a picture and then they can go and do the liquifying on it. But this technique will prevent you from going back and doing some adjustment, and we all know that after hours of editing on Photoshop you don't see straight. You go back to the picture the day after and then you say, oh my god, what's this edit, and you want to change something. So doing non-destructive work in Photoshop is very crucial because otherwise you will have to redo the whole editing from scratch. So the best way to do a non-destructive work in Photoshop is always to use smart objects. So smart objects, and I will demonstrate that for you just for you to see. So let's click on the right button here and we go and convert all those layers. So as you can see, we selected everything here and we will click on convert to smart object. So when you convert into a smart object, what you notice is that the picture was flattened. So what does that mean? That means that all the adjustments that you did before now are existing within this smart object. So how to edit that? So if we double click on the smart object, you see that another layer opened with all the adjustments and the whole edit that you did before. So now you can simply readjust whatever you want. If you save it, it will go back and it will apply to this smart object. And you can even close this one. So this thing is also very useful when you are doing liquifying. For the record, a smart object doesn't have to be done on multiple. So for example, here, because this one is locked, so what we will be doing, I think even this one can be turned into a smart object. Yes, it can be. So any layer, even if you have one layer, you can convert it into a smart object. So here we don't need any adjustment layers. So we just converted one picture into a smart object, and now we can start demonstrating the liquify. Okay guys, I will start by showing you my first technique for doing liquify, and actually it's my favorite one. So the first thing that we will do is that we will start the liquifying on the smart object that we created. So we will go to filter and then we will click on liquify. So for liquifying, before, most people, they were using what is called the warp tool. The warp tool is a simple tool that helps you just move stuff. You can do things like that, and things like that. And generally, that's what people use most of the time when you see those bad edits. Did people do something like that? And you end up with, of course, this is not good stuff that I want to show you, but you see the point. And generally, people focus on the body, they keep looking at the body and they think, oh my god, my body looks so good. And then when they share the picture, they neglect looking at the stuff near. And generally, they end up becoming a meme or embarrassed on internet. So let's restore everything. So there's the warp tool, and there is some of the most useful tools, and actually those are the ones that I use the most on my editing. The first one is the bloating tool, which is B. Bloating makes things big. And there is the other one, which is the opposite, and pucker tool. Well, this is the one that makes things smaller. So this is something that is very useful, because actually it's much more useful than the warp, but people, because this is the legacy tool that people had, so people use this most of the time. So let's go ahead and let's do some proper liquifying here. So let's do stuff near the line. So like that, I will show you how to correct the crookedness that goes outside. So my first technique that I told you about, for example, let's do something like here. Oh, let's go to the warp tool. So for example here, this is normal human anatomy. So this is something that we see all the time. And if you do editing or you shoot a lot of ladies, you know that this is quite normal, those kind of things. So here you notice that we already crooked this part here. So we will not do anything. Let's do, this is just for the sake of the demonstration. So let's say that we did something like that. Of course, it's not the best liquifying that we can do, but this is just a demonstration. So let's do here the pucker tool. Let's make this thing smaller here. And just let's make sure. Okay. So here we will click on OK. So as you can see, now you have a smart filter and for liquifying. The whole point of using this non-destructive way and using the smart object is that now at any time you can double click on the liquify and you will be able to readjust what you did before. You can even restore it. You can reconstruct. This reconstruct is very useful because it helps you tone down what you did. So you can see reconstruct. So this is the power of working on smart object and keeping your work non-destructive. So my best way of making sure that none of this thing shows up is that using the mask. The masking, as you know, when it's white, it means that it reveals, and when it's black, it means that it hides. So here I'm clicking on Command I to invert the layer mask. So you can see this is after the bad liquifying, because this is a bad liquifying, it's just for the demonstration, and this is with a good liquifying, which, okay, this one is without liquifying. So you can see the before and after. So you can see the lines that are crooked and everything. So now let's reveal everything. And what I like to do is always go to the select tool. So let's do a select. And if you have a new version of Photoshop, you have the select subject button. So the select object has two options, the cloud and the device. Device is quick, but it's not extremely precise. Cloud is the best one. Both of them work perfectly, but I always use cloud because it's more precise. So let's click on the cloud one and let's do select subject. So now we selected only the subject, which is our model here. So what I will do is that I will click here and I will do select inverse. And I will go here, I will click on the layer mask and I will click on Command I. And now what happened is that all the area that is black, it shows us what was on the picture before the liquifying. And only the part in white is the one of the new liquifying that you can see here. So nothing from all that outside from the subject was impacted. However, a lot of time, because the liquifying is making things big and makes things small. So of course there will be things from the old picture that will show and others that will be hidden behind the new liquify. So for example, you see here that we have double because we made a liquify. So because the new liquefied picture is smaller than the old one, so it's normal that the old one will show here. And we can see here also there is some double, and here also there are some double. So how can we fix all that? So we will go and we will click on the brush tool. So we will make sure that the opacity and the flow are at 100. We make sure that we have a white color, and we click on the mask, and now we go with a small brush and we brush only the parts that we notice that are coming out. For example, here, you see? So we are brushing that. And here we need to be careful, and I will show you also how to fix certain things that cannot be fixed this way. So for example, you can see here, you can even reconstruct some of that, and you know, it's not a big deal, no one can see that. So here you can see, so we can use the white to reveal things from the liquify that we did. Here I don't think that there's anything crossing, but here they are, and you can see. And we will always end up, so we didn't touch anything here, so there is no point into going there. But you can see the point. So here we have also stuff like that. Okay. However, this technique now is not perfect because you can see that we have things. If people zoom, they will notice that we have a bad liquifying happening here. So the best thing to do is to go and create an empty layer. So this empty layer is to do the small adjustments that we couldn't do with this masking tool. So we go and we click on the clone stamp tool. We make sure that we are at all here. We are sampling the whole picture because otherwise it will sample an empty layer. So now we will go and we will click here. So sample, we click on Alt, we click here, and then we just brush on the top. Don't be afraid to go on the top of the body. Why you don't have to be afraid of going on the top of the body? Because you still can mask this. So for example, this, you can mask it. We clicked here to create a mask, and we can simply go at the end of the edit and we click on the brush. We make sure that we are on black because it's white, so we want to hide, and we can hide the things that came out. So you can see here, and of course we will go back and we'll continue here. We'll continue. Sorry. So we'll go back to the clone stamp tool. We click on Alt to sample, and then we brush on the top of it. What happened? Okay, so sorry, I was doing it on the wrong. So we can go here, and you can see we can simply paint on the top of the things that, for example, here we can select here and we can do we can do a better work, I think. Yeah, that's the line. And you can see it. We go back to the brush tool and the mask, and with a black, we can go and paint the body back. And you can see here, we have a very, very good work that we made. For example, here, all we have to do is also, we can use several tools. Actually, you don't have always to use the stamp tool. You can use all the hidden brushes and everything. All of can be useful in this situation. So let's zoom here and let's see what we can do. Of course, this is not easy because it's extremely small, but we can even use like a selection. We can select that. We can select that, and we can see if we can. So here we selected all that, and let's see if we can do a clamp, or maybe the new remove tool, and let's see if it works good here. And you can see it worked perfectly. So you can see here we fixed everything that was coming out of this picture. So just a reminder, that's what we went from, which is the one with all the crooked lines and everything, to one that looks perfect and very hard for people to notice that it's actually a liquifying that happened on this picture. So this is for my first technique, and my favorite one is to utilize the liquifying plus the mask tool and the clone stamp tool. For the second technique, we will be using the same tool. However, this time we will be utilizing the features that are within the Liquify page. So we already deleted all the liquifying that we did previously. So we will go on filter and we'll click on liquify. So we have the same page and we already went through a lot of those tools. So before we go ahead and start doing all our liquifying, the warp, or anything that we want to do, we will go ahead and we will do a freezing of all the things that we know can get easily crooked. So for the freezing, we have this tool here that is called freeze mask tool. We click on it and we go and we will be freezing all the things that we know can easily get crooked, like those lines here. This tool is not 100% perfect, but it's very useful at the same time, and I will show you why it's not perfect and all that. So let's go here and we will be, let's zoom out and we'll try to freeze everything that we know can easily get crooked with the liquifying that we will be doing. So we touched a little bit the subject here. So here we will erase with this eraser here. So we will erase the things that we did. So we don't want it to touch the body, because if it touches the body, the result will be horrific. Okay, so now we have the picture. Let's go on fit the view. So now everything that is frozen will not be impacted by our liquifying. So let's go ahead and we will do the pucker tool. So this is the one that helps us make things small. So we did it here. Of course, we are doing it excessively just to show you, and we will be doing here something to make things big, and also, of course, let's do some stuff like this. Of course, I'm not doing a liquifying here, but it's more of a demonstration. So let's do things like that. Yeah. So now if we go here, if we go to a preview, you will notice that nothing that was selected as being frozen was moved. Only the things that are outside of that were impacted. However, why this tool is my second favorite one, is not the main one that you utilize all the time. Of course, I use it when I know that it will work. But the problem with it is that sometimes you need to have a perfect selection. Otherwise, you end up with things like that. So for example, this part here was not selected, a small little bit of things that was not selected, and you can see that it went overboard here. It happens all the time. For example, here you cannot do a 100% perfect selection, but the little bit that you miss generally end up being extremely bad. Generally, this is good if the person is not crossing the lines that you want to freeze. But if it's something like you want to do this and the person is a little bit far from the main line, it works perfectly. But generally, when there is the person crossing the line or too close to it, this tool has its limitations. But still, it's extremely powerful, and it saves you a lot of work from cloning and also from masking that I showed you before. So let's go on OK. And because of the smart object that we created, now we can do a before and after. So you can see the before and after. And as you can notice, the lines were not badly impacted. Of course they were. And now you see here the little thing that went overboard is just because we missed a tiny bit. But overall, the work is good, and those things can be adjusted the same way how we did before. We create a new layer, and with a clone stamp tool, we can go here, we can select here, and we can just adjust that part. So we don't need that big. Yeah, so we can do this like this, and we can adjust it. Of course, we can mask this part here, and we can clean a little bit. So with the black, and we will just paint a little bit here, and there we go. We have now a good picture. Of course, it can be better, but we're just doing this demonstration. Same thing here. We can also either mask it here, so we can mask it with a black, but it's not something major. So we can do something like that, and then we clean this. So as you can see, those are the two main tools to do a proper liquifying. Okay guys, so this is all for this video. I hope you learned one or two things from it. If you have any questions or any feedbacks, you can leave them in the comments. And see you on the next one. Bye.